Hi, I'm Joseph O'Connor and I'm a Global Director of the International Coaching Community and the co-founder. And I'm really looking forward to coming to South Korea in January next year, where I'm going to be doing some coaching and also very interesting training on neuroscience and coaching. I've just finished writing a book together with my partner Andrea Larges called Coaching the Brain, Practical Applications of Neuroscience to Coaching. And this is a huge, growing, fascinating area in coaching. Why? Well, I like the idea of the candle and the flame. If you think of a candle, a lit candle, it's beautiful, the flame flickers, and the flame is quite different from the wax of the candle. But the flame can't exist without the wax of the candle. So in that sense, our consciousness is the flame. And it's quite a different sort of thing to the wax of the candle, which is solid material. The flame is not material. And the wax of the candle is like the brain. The brain supports us, everything we do supports our consciousness. You won't get the flame without the candle. Yeah? And of course, the candle without the flame is just wax. So you need them both. And that's a metaphor I very much like. Now, neuroscience has grown incredibly in the last 5-10 years. It's adding immensely to our understanding of every type of discipline, including psychology and of course coaching. And neuroscience is a study of the structure and function of the nervous system, and that means of course mostly the brain, and its relation to behaviour and learning. The brain is part of our biology. It's less than a couple of kilos here. And yet, we can't live without it. A hugely important part. We know a lot about how it works, but it's still quite a mystery. It's involved in everything we do. Every decision we make is somehow worked out in the neural corridors of the brain. And in order to make good decisions, we need to know how those corridors work. So when we do coaching, which is about goals, values, beliefs, ideas, we must take the brain into account. Values are driven by emotion, our feeling. And it's very important we understand our feelings and our emotions. And neuroscience is going to help us with this. And neuroscience also shows how feeling and emotion is behind all the decisions that we make and how we can harness that in the best way. Habits of thinking, our ideas, our beliefs, they're all learnt through the way that the brain works. And they can be unlearned. So the way that our brain thinks and the kinds of traps that our thinking can fall into so easily is very important to know. And this is something else that neuroscience can help with. For me, that's one of the most fascinating things is about how the brain thinks and the kinds of tricks that it can play, as well as all the unconscious influences on our decisions and on our thinking that we don't even notice. But somehow our brain does, takes them into account, and we don't know about it. And it's time we did. Neuroplasticity, what does that mean? It's the ability of the brain to change itself through thinking, through habits. The brain can change itself, and a coach helps the client to literally change their brain, because changing means a rewiring of the brain. There's no change in actions and habits of thinking or habits of action, without a rewiring of the brain. Another really important thing, trust and rapport. Social relationships. How do we relate to other people? What does this mean? How does this work? Very important. How do we trust? Why do we trust? So I think it's really important that we bring the insights of neuroscience into coaching. It can help us so much to understand a bit how the brain works, and we can then understand our clients so much better, and I think you'll be surprised and delighted at the kinds of new techniques, tools and models that we can have once we take neuroscience into account. So, we need to understand the candle and the flame. There's a lot of power in coaching the brain, and I'm really looking forward to bringing that to South Korea in January.